Eala shares a great piece of advice she received from Rafael Nadal. The Eala phenomenon continues to take the WTA Tour by storm at each event she enters, and the rising star is taking her stardom in her stride. The Filipina made her top-level breakthrough just under a year ago at the Miami Open when she reached the semifinal of the WTA 1000 event with wins over Grand Slam winners Jelena Ostapenko, Madison Keys, and Iga Swiatek before losing against Jessica Pegula. She achieved several historic milestones on the back of that run as she was the first Filipina to beat a major champion in the Open era, the first from the Philippines to reach the semifinal of a WTA 1000 tournament, and the first Filipino player to reach the top 100 of the WTA rankings. Later in the year, she became the first Filipina to win a Grand Slam singles match when she reached the second round of the U.S. Open, and she went on to crack the top 50 later in the year. In an interview with The National, Eala said, "Obviously the Miami run was quite sudden, but after that, I took it step by step and nothing came really in a big wave. So I eased into certain changes that came with being in the top 100, and I think it's a similar story for the start of this season, with the people and just the exposure I'm getting. So I try to take it step by step. I try to remind myself that work is work and all of this wouldn't be possible if I didn't work hard." Her achievements have increased tennis interest in the Philippines, and she is now one of the most popular sporting stars from the Asian country. And the Filipinos were out in force for her Australian Open main draw debut this year, with long queues outside Court 6 for her match against Alicia Parks. "There was a lot of commotion in Australia about the attendance in my match," the world number 45 said. "It was very unexpected for me. I'd never seen a line so long for my match, although I had played in a bigger court. So I don't know how that compares. But either way, it was such a great experience, and it just goes to show how much tennis is growing in my country. I think that's a reflection of it, and I'm so proud of that." The fact that Eala is determined to keep grounded despite her success is certainly a testament to the foundations that were laid not only by her parents, but also at the esteemed Rafael Nadal Academy. She spent most of her teenage years at the Mallorca facility and, of course, there are advantages to being part of the academy that belongs to the great Rafael Nadal. "It was crazy," she said with a big grin on her face. "It was my first time ever hitting with him, and I was so nervous, and it was definitely physically demanding for me. I mean, he was off court for like a year, and I've been training strong, and I feel like, man, I was so far. But it was just such a great experience to really absorb all that knowledge. Just to say that you hit with Rafa, it's insane, but I feel so lucky and so blessed." She had attended many speeches from Nadal at the academy, and there's one common theme. Rafa says a lot in his speeches that it's important to surround yourself with good people, and I really think that this is such a great piece of advice. And he's told me other stuff about my game, but that's what stood out the most. The weight of a simple sentence. On a tennis court, silence is never empty. It hums with anticipation, echoes with past matches, and carries the quiet weight of expectations, especially when your footsteps belong to someone still learning how large her dream truly is. Eala learned this early. At the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, the sun rises gently, as if even it understands discipline. The courts are pristine, the routines relentless, and the air carries the unmistakable presence of excellence. This is where legends are shaped, but also where young players discover how heavy ambition can feel in their hands. Alex was still a teenager when she found herself walking those courts. Not as a tourist, not as a fan, but as a student. A Filipino girl oceans away from home, carrying not just her racket, but the hopes of a nation that was slowly learning to love tennis through her. And then there was Rafael Nadal. Not just a name, not just a statue in motion, but a man whose footsteps had rewritten tennis history with sweat, humility, and an almost stubborn devotion to improvement. When Nadal spoke, people listened. When he advised, it wasn't decorative. It was distilled. One day, amid training sessions that blurred into each other, Alex found herself receiving a piece of advice from him. It wasn't long. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't sound like something that would be carved into marble. But it stayed. Focus on what you can control. Effort, attitude, respect for the game. Simple. Almost unfairly so. At first glance, it sounded like something you'd hear on a motivational poster. But the power of the sentence revealed itself slowly, the way true wisdom always does. Because tennis is a cruel teacher. You can train for months and lose in an hour. You can play the match of your life and still walk away defeated. You can do everything right, and still lose to a better day from someone else. Young players often fight this truth. They fight scoreboards, rankings, expectations, social media noise, and the invisible pressure of what if. Alex was no different. She had already achieved things few had before her, yet every win raised the bar, and every loss felt louder than the last. That's when Nadal's advice stopped being abstract and started becoming survival. On days when the save wouldn't cooperate, she focused on footwork. On days when nerves crept in, she leaned into preparation. On days when losses stung, she reminded herself that effort never betrays you. What Nadal gave her wasn't a strategy for winning matches. It was a philosophy for enduring the journey. He never promised trophies. He never guaranteed success. He pointed her instead toward ownership. You don't control the crowd. You don't control the draw. You don't control your opponent's best day. But you control how honestly you wake. For Alex, that realization became grounding. It allowed her to play freely, not because pressure disappeared, but because it no longer ruled her. The court became a place of expression instead of fear. Every match, whether won or lost, became a conversation with herself. Did I show up the right way? That question, more than any ranking, began to shape her identity as an athlete. What makes the advice extraordinary is not that it is complex, but that it is consistent. Rafael Nadal's career is a living demonstration of those words. His intensity, his respect for every opponent, his refusal to blame anything but himself when things go wrong. These weren't habits built overnight. They were practiced, daily, relentlessly. Alex didn't just hear the advice. She saw it embodied. And that might be the greatest gift a mentor can give. As her career continues to unfold, Eala carries that sentence with her, not as a shield against failure, but as a compass. In moments of triumph, it keeps her humble. In moments of doubt, it keeps her steady. Because greatness, as Nadal quietly taught her, is not about controlling outcomes. It's about controlling who you are when outcomes refuse to cooperate. And sometimes, all it takes to shape a future is a simple sentence, spoken at the right time, by someone who lived every word of it.